Okay, so favorite concert, and can't count it down into a show.
Ooh.
Favorite concert you ever been to? I got a number of answers, but I know my easy one. Judas Priest, live at the Metro Center. My brother bought me tickets to it because he knew I was a Mastodon fan, and Mastodon was opening for them. And I went there, and we sat there, and we watched Mastodon, and I thought that was all great. And then Judas Priest came out on stage, and I mean, obviously I was familiar with Judas Priest, but this was a whole other friggin' experience. That is far and away, in my opinion, the best concert I've ever seen. Rob Halford, thank you. I was going to say Hatford. I don't know why. Rob Halford was like literally everything I would ever want in a frontman incarnate. Like, it was just, the guy walked out because the band started out there on their own, and then he came out. He started singing off stage first, and then he came out with like a cane, like a rock god cane with skulls on it and stuff, and these big giant boots, and that's just image will stick with me forever. And he immediately was like, the entire Metro Center was in the palm of his hands.
Yeah.
He hadn't even done anything yet.
Yeah.
Very similar thing happened with Tony Iommi and Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
Which was funny because I figured it would have been Ozzy, but specifically Tony, for whatever reason, the second he started playing, that was it. The guy was in everybody's brain. It was really a unique thing to experience that hopefully, I mean, maybe someday we can have that effect on somebody.
Yeah.
But Judas Priest would be the best concert I've ever seen. What about you guys?
For me, it's between two. Well, one's pretty close. Well, one is definitely the one that's pretty close is Billy Talent on their the Dead Silence tour when they came to Halifax, played the Kennard Center. That was my first like standing room show that I'd ever been to. I was like 16. My dad took me. That was the last concert my dad said he'd ever take me to because he said he felt like a creep. Because he was stood in this room of like teenagers, and my dad was like 48 at the time.
Been there, done that.
I was 15. He went
and Mariana's Trench.
He went sat in the back with everybody. I had a great time, but that was because Billy Talent is one of my like favorite bands, and I got like right up front, and it was just to experience them, and they played phenomenally, even though it was the end of the tour. But number one is far and away Metallica when they played
on the Hill.
On the Hill, because when I was
I was there.
That was kind of shortly after I was the whole Guitar Hero and getting into bigger and bigger band, and I had gotten really into Metallica from Guitar Hero 3, and then the Metallica Guitar Hero that came out, and like they were just everything to me. And my dad, jokingly, because he was like, "They'll never come here," was like, "If they ever come to Halifax, we'll go. I'll buy you tickets and we'll go." Thinking they're never coming back to Halifax. It's Metallica. And then I think it was 2014 or 2011. 2011. It was June 14th, 2011. Because I still remember the shirt. It was like stamped on the shirt. They came and it rained like no tomorrow, and people were just out there in the mud. And it was like on the hill. It wasn't on the commons.
As it should be for a Metallica show.
I mean, yeah.
Knee deep in mud.
Yeah. And
I like it on the hill though because if
you could see everything.
You could see
it was
everything.
Great.
You just I can't see. I'll run up the hill.
Yeah, as if you ever have that problem, Lance, the giant.
So, listen, and I remember the band before Metallica was Coheed and Cambria, which I had never heard, and they were great. And they went off. Everything was getting set up, and then like the clouds parted, the sun came out, and Ecstasy of Gold started playing. Like, the second it started playing, the skies cleared and the sun came out. And then they started...
That guy was like, oh, Metallica.
Yeah, God was like, Metallica's playing, get out of the way.
I watch this too.
And I just remember, like, every second of that show. And I still, like, just for fun, they do... Metallica always does, like, live recordings of their stuff. And there's a recording of Sanitarium from Halifax, and I'll just watch it, just for the sake of it. Just to be like... Just to relive it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I have two that come to mind. The first one I can think of is seeing Rush.
Oh yeah, I bet that was awesome.
That was awesome, and it's especially awesome to think back now because it had been 20 plus years, maybe 25 plus years since they had come to Halifax. So I was really lucky to go see them, And then, of course, this year we lost Neil Peart, the drummer. So it's even more special that I got to see them when I did. That concert was just, it was amazing. Just watching all the technicality of their playing, and I was just in awe of watching them. But I think the best experience-wise would have to be Paul McCartney, because it was just...
It's Paul McCartney.
You're seeing a legend. You're seeing a freaking Beatle on the stage, and it was just such a good show. And just seeing the whole crowd just singing along every word to every song, it was amazing.
My biggest regret in life is not going to that Rush
Oh,
concert.
it's
the
a
Rush?
Rush? Yeah. Yep.
Paul McCartney, I was young when Paul McCartney was here. Like, I was like... It was a long time. That was like 2008.
2009.
Yeah.
So I was
Long
like
time
10 or
ago.
11.
Oh, God.
What about you, John?
For me, well, I'd say like I went to a Crash Karma show. Crash Karma is a Canadian band. They were playing at Hunters in Charlottetown.
Cool.
Awesome freaking venue. And I went there with my buddy Donald, may he rest in peace, and you don't see a lot of bands play as tightly as they did that night, and I just remember being like just very, very impressed. And the fact that it was with my best friend was, that
Made it
memory
special.
always stands out in my mind. The only other one that I can think of is, I don't even remember the name of this band. I remember it was another gig I was dragged to with my mom. I remember I was 11 years old, and this was this kind of a variety event, and this jazz band came on. And they were like very energetic and very fast. And I was sitting right up front, and I was just like right in front of the guitarist, and I was in front of the keyboardist, and just watching like the finger work between like just my head going back and forth, just like watching both of them. Like to me, was like more thrilling than a roller coaster ride.
That's
honestly,
cool.
Yeah,
For sure.
that's a very strong memory that stands out to me.
Absolutely. Okay, so similar question for everybody. What's the first album you can remember buying yourself?
It's a Kind of Magic by Queen.
This one's embarrassing. I was 10, and I got Grammy Nominees 2000. So it was a compilation CD, and it was exciting for me because I grew up with, listening to classic rock and all that stuff, and it was my first real modern music CD, even though a lot of the songs I look back now, it's not, my type of music, but it's the first one I ever got. I played it on repeat. Some Ricky Martin on there, Christina Aguilera.
Ricky Martin.
Nice.
I don't remember if I bought this album or if I got it for like Christmas or my birthday, but I remember it being like the first CD I ever owned was a Paul Brandt CD, and I don't remember what album
That's
it was.
random.
When I was younger, my mom was into country music.
Okay.
So I was also really into country music.
Yeah.
The like mid 2000s kind of country, and Paul Brandt did a cover of Convoy, and I was a kid who liked trucks.
Yeah.
So
you were like, cool.
I know every word to that song. Like I can recite that like perfectly.
Very nice.
Yeah, I remember that. That's probably like one of the first ones I owned. I do remember buying Billy Talent 3 when I kind of started getting into heavier music.
For me, man, the problem is it's a long time ago now. I definitely very, very early in my life, like I was probably 14 or 15, so working my first kind of like, kid part-time job thing, picked up Steppenwolf's Greatest Hits.
Ooh.
Good choice.
Yeah, well, I only knew two songs, and I knew Magic Carpet Ride and Born to Be Wild.
Yeah.
Yep.
And honest to God truth, didn't like most of the CD.
That's all you
But
really
I
needed,
definitely bought it for sure with my own money. In around that time, I was trying to get into like rock music when I was in junior high. When I was very young, I was listening to what my parents listened to, obviously. So my mom was so into country, like piles and piles and piles of country. Garth Brooks, Celine Dion.
Celine Dion's not country.
Oh no, sorry, not Celine. She was in Celine Dion. Sorry, Shania Twain. Shania Twain.
I mean, she's from
stuff
a
like
country,
that.
but
Yeah. And then my dad was into like 70s. I don't want to call it mainstream rock, but like Elton John, Styx, stuff that wasn't not like the hair metal scene,
like the pop rock,
the poppy
stuff.
rock end. So I listened to a lot of Elton John and stuff as a kid, and then in junior high, I was like the right age when American Idiot came out from Green Day, and that was like when I was like, oh, rock and punk and like harder stuff is a thing. And so from there, I started trying to, because this is early enough that I was, you couldn't go and find all these music videos on YouTube. They didn't exist yet.
Yeah.
So if I
YouTube
wanted to
didn't exist
download
yet.
stuff, YouTube existed. It started because I was watching
Not till
Phil DeFranco at that
2005.
time. So 15 years old, right?
Yeah.
But I was getting, if I wanted to download stuff, it was LimeWire. So I'd have to give my computer sexual
cancer.
translated disease in order to get stuff. But I downloaded
Clinton
one thing. I
contacts.
downloaded the entire discography of AC/DC
Yep.
at one point. But one of the earliest things I ever downloaded, and I didn't know that it was pirated, and it's funny enough because it came full circle later, was a very early leaked demo of Better by Guns N' Roses from Chinese Democracy. And this was like full on 4 or 5 years before the song came out. And I still wish I had that demo because I could swear to you that demo is better than the song that they released. But that also could just be my nostalgic brain.
That's true. We often remember things as way
It
better
must
than
have
they
been
were.
something with LimeWire because there was some songs that I downloaded and I had been listening to demo versions of it, not realizing
A lot
that
of
wasn't
pirated
the
demo
real
versions of
version.
these songs ended up on LimeWire. Available on LimeWire, certainly. Because that was very shortly after the era of like pirated tapes and CDs and stuff, and you stick a microphone on it for a tape recorder in front of the radio to get songs.
No,
It wasn't that long for
that was not efficient.
You sound at the
Your
radio.
best thing to do was have one of those double cassette things, and you like have one playing it, and you have the other one just recording it, and you just
Right.
do that at the same time.
Well, that's an
try to
option
synchronize
too.
it.
Yeah.
Hey, the art of a very well put together mixtape is not something to be underestimated.
Right.
It is a lost art.
Or
Right.
System of a Down put out Still This Album, and the entire B-side of the tape was blank, so you could
Yeah.
steal music.
Yep, totally. So the earliest thing that I can think of that I pirated was that Guns N' Roses Better, because I was looking up Guns N' Roses trying to get stuff, and
Yeah.
this popped up, and it was like this weirdly recorded version of it. But the big thing that strikes me now is that Axl, his voice has aged and all this kind of stuff, but it was very obvious that like this demo from the way his voice sounded was done in the 90s, like before he had gone downhill the way that he has a lot now. So it's like old. If you think of like Use Your Illusion era Axl Rose singing Better off that new record, that's what it sounded like. So I didn't even know it was a demo. I thought it was the song, and afterwards I tried to find the album that it was on, and I couldn't find it, and wigged me out. And eventually I figured out, I was like, oh, this hasn't come out yet. And then 4 years later
It was
they dropped the
fever
record.
dream.
It was weird, yeah, but that's the early one, and that was like my first real foray into Guns N' Roses, and it wasn't even like real Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's that one.
The early days of online pirating music, man. It was a
I know,
dangerous
it's totally
place.
strange.
I did
Totally
not
different
have
world.
sexual relations with,
With
that,
that woman.
woman.
But I did with her mouth.
Okay, so the last one is kind of a question, because I would assume that the UK is still in lockdown, because they're asking what have you been up to during lockdown. So,
I mean, we kind of still are.
but not nearly like
Not
we were.
nearly
We were in lockdown
like-
a few months ago. So again, I don't know exactly what's going on with you guys in the UK. I hope everything's going well.
Well,
and
it
everyone's
varies
staying,
by country as
yeah,
well. So.
yeah, staying safe and staying healthy, and that you don't have a leader who's saying, "Hey, masks don't do anything" or anything like that.
Drink bleach.
We don't have
Bleach.
that. Thank
No, we don't. We don't. That's what
Our
I'm saying.
neighbors have
Our
that.
neighbors do, though. But
Well said about that.
but we're lucky enough that we're not in like a total lockdown anymore.
No,
we're
the
we're all
Atlantic
sitting in the
bubble
same
has
room.
been a very successful
Yeah,
endeavor.
the
Yes.
Atlantic bubble is kind of a
We're actually in one of the
Unique
safest
thing.
places on the continent, honestly.
yeah.
We're in one of the safer places.
So
in the
we're a bit
world.
better
Yeah,
out,
right
but
now.
a
Well, the
lot
only,
of working
time, the
from
only
home.
cases are travel related right
Yeah.
now. And
Yeah.
there's
In
only
the
literally
entirety
a
of Atlantic
handful.
Canada, there's like 13 cases.
Yeah.
Like it's very, very, very low, and there's something like 3 million people out here. So it's pretty good.
Maybe.
Well, there's a million.
Maybe 3 million people.
There's a million people in Nova Scotia. There's about 800,000 in New Brunswick.
Oh yeah, I always
Right?
forget.
Then you
there's
got
that-
Newfoundland and PEI.
Yeah, I
right?
always forget there's that many people in.
Yeah, New Brunswick is
New Brunswick.
higher populated than you think.
Yeah, they're just spread out.
Yeah, bigger province. But
Yeah.
so when we were in lockdown, we were working on that demo.
Yeah, we were
for
working
Little
on.
Hell.
We did about
Well-
3 demos because we did
Little Hell, Dear Father,
Past Crimes. We
Past
demoed
Crimes.
all. We demoed.
We
all 3 of those.
we did a demo recording of those live, but I'm talking about like once we couldn't even get together when we were in
No, yeah,
lockdown.
we did Dear Father and Past Crimes demos at home. Because I remember
Did
sending
we?
you bass tracks for them.
That was
we,
early on.
yeah,
That
we
was
weren't
really
even
early. I don't
vocals
even
for
know
one of
if
Yeah,
them.
that was still like back in like March, March,
okay.
April.
So before, so we were totally shut down from March through to
June.
mid-June.
Now I know I worked through the whole thing, but I think all
You're
of
the
you,
only one.
I was the only one who worked through the entire
You guys worked for a while.
pandemic.
2 weeks.
I worked 2 weeks
Yeah.
from
And then
home,
they
and
were
then I
just
was
like-
laid
And that one
off.
was laid off.
Yeah, Johnny was furloughed
Johnny-
for a little while.
Johnny got laid off very briefly. Johnny
He
got
didn't
back to
get
work
laid
pretty
off. He
fast.
just had to quarantine.
Yeah, no, he had to quarantine because of his fiance.
Well, no. He was out of work for a little bit too. And when it first started, there was like a week or so where
Yeah,
there was
he
No,
collected
that was
serve
the-
initially.
Yeah,
No,
he
because
got-
No, that was
home.
because of his.
He was home because someone at
'Cause his,
one of the
uh,
nursing homes that Jamie was working at had
got-
COVID.
I think that
So
happened
him and
after
Jamie-
that.
No,
I might
it's
be
right near the
misremembering
beginning.
that.
Yeah, no, that was
Yeah.
pretty. Yeah, that was when it was starting to get bad.
Because even he says he only had 2 weeks.
Yeah, he only had the 2 weeks off, and yeah, but we've been, like you said, pretty shut. We were shut down like hard March through June, which was fun because I'm still in college.
Yeah.
So that was fun to try to deal with.
I bet.
There was just like 3 weeks of like nothing, and then all of a sudden it was like you got to do all this work with the online stuff, and I had to drive out to one of my teachers. I had to drive an hour to one of my teachers' house to like get some old 80s test equipment from him to try to finish a project that I was working on, which helped and didn't help, but that was some of the weirdest stuff. Especially like the weirdest thing. I don't know how much you guys went out during when it was hard locked down, but like
Here and
driving
there.
from here,
Bizarre.
my teacher like out Bedford way,
Yeah.
driving like an hour, like through a very populated
And not
area
even
of
seeing-
city, and
Oh,
there's like I drove out go out the magazine,
Mhm.
which is like packed
Usually.
all day,
Oh, it
most
was
of the day,
weird.
It's like-
it was eerie.
dead empty.
Yeah.
It's weird. The
And
only
I remember
places-
grocery shopping was really tense at first. Like,
Best thing that happened about all this is like people started Superstore has this whole like online thing, but like pickup. That's just what we still do. That was the easiest thing. You put it a grocery order in online. You park outside the store. They put it in your car for you.
Perfect.
The dollar store got self-checkouts now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that was
we're
exciting.
going up
to
in
me.
the world with
But
all around.
yeah, I agree. I mean, one of the weirdest things was, here, again, I'm not sure how things kind of went down in the UK, but here things went from totally fine to completely
It
shut
was state of
down
emergency.
really fast.
It was like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
they were-
It was a
they
week
handled
period
that
where-
fairly
There
well
wasn't- yeah.
at that. Honestly,
Yeah.
Right.
No, I'm not complaining, but it was
It was a shock to the system.
juxtaposition of life is normal and life is totally not normal
Yeah.
in a very short period of time.
Yeah,
was
because
very
it went mid-March there when everything kind of started to shut down. Like schools were going to be closed for a couple extra weeks after March break
right.
to try to see what was going to happen, and then they started putting on these advisories of like stay home if you can. If you're still going to go to work, whatever. Don't go out to social events. Social events shouldn't happen. You shouldn't go to parks, which it was March, so it wasn't that big of a deal here because it was still kind of cold. But like stuff like that, and they tried to like ease into it, and no one listened.
Mm-hmm.
Like the provincial government
Yeah.
was like, take it easy, everybody stay home, we can control this. Nobody listened, and then our premier was just like, all right, you're
That's
on
it.
time.
Everyone, yeah.
Literally
the
Everyone's
graze is
grounded.
home.
Well, what
We're all
happened
grounded.
was we had a day of really nice warm weather in March.
Yes,
and
that is what happened.
everyone
Everybody went out.
outside.
It's
and
Easter weekend.
congregated.
Yeah. Beaches were full of people.
It was Easter weekend. It
Well,
got like,
we are creatures of habit.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think it was Easter weekend. It was.
or it was before that or something. But yeah, it got to like 20 degrees here, and like everybody just like, let's go outside. And then the following day, our premier was like, all right,
We
no
got
one's
grounded.
listening, so we're grounding the whole province, basically. Yeah.
So yeah, and that lasted through to mid-June.
Yeah.
So we had a few months of like, quite literally,
Nothing.
I didn't see another soul during that time.
Yeah, no, it was just...
Well, they started to ease stuff up in May. We could have bubbles.
Yeah, you could have like a
Bubble
group of
of
Yeah,
five
family.
people.
Yeah, the family bubble thing.
You
Yeah.
could be in a bubble with another family or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I think it was
pretty extreme.
Started getting back to jamming in May.
No,
I think it was before June.
no, we didn't start. We didn't get back to jamming until it was after when we would have played Buck Cherry. Remember?
That was the end of May.
Yeah.
That was the end of May, right? So it would have been in early, maybe the very end of May or early June.
Yeah, I
before we
think
could
it was
actually
right after
get together as a group
Buck
again.
Cherry
But that was the
shut
best
down.
thing for me was once. Of all the things I missed getting together as a band and
Yeah, I
working
missed
and
just
stuff.
playing.
Yeah. So that's been. I mean, that's hopefully we can find a way. Let's say we get the second wave in the winter or whatever. Cross your fingers, we don't. That we manage to find a way to at least keep that going. Because if there's a silver lining to all of this, there's kind of two of them. But the first one is people appreciating like face to face people interaction, because we're all so hooked on our phones and the whole
internet.
world's plugged in now, and you know, I mean, there's a trend going on with young people who like they don't like they almost get anxiety about making phone calls and stuff, right?
Yep.
Which to me seems very strange, but for a generation who grew up with smartphones, it's not so weird because they're all texting people.
I had to talk myself
Right.
into making a doctor's appointment the other day.
Right, so it's
It was
strange,
like a
right?
5-minute conversation
But
with
now,
myself.
you know, people are going, oh, I miss people.
Yeah.
And so kind of in that same ballpark, hopefully there's a new appreciation for the arts, because we've, I don't know if you're familiar over there, Emily, with this, but there was a Facebook group that blew up into this international sensation called the Nova Scotia Kitchen Party.
Ultimate.
The Ultimate Nova Scotia Kitchen
Kitchen
Party.
Party.
That just started as a few people over here in Nova Scotia trying to like connect musicians with people so that people could do live streaming.
And people could,
Now
like,
there's like a
see
500,000 people or
I
something
think
on it.
I think it capped a
It's,
million.
it's crazy. It
I was
blew up into
watching
this huge
someone
thing.
from New Zealand
All
on there
over
one
the
day. It
world.
was awesome.
And it showed how important the art and music and things are to everyone's day-to-day well-being. And I feel like that's something that, you know, prior to this, a lot of people kind of took for granted. Certainly, you know, the music industry hasn't been kind with where, you know, royalties have gone with streaming and you know, you can't sell
We were getting a
CDs
little
now.
bit away from the COVID-19.
yeah.
Well, no, but it's the point is that it's if something good comes from this, hopefully it's that, and that people you know,
appreciate
it kind
this
of
kind of
people
stuff a
will
little
appreciate that more.
I think hopefully we'll focus more on our actual problems than the inconveniences.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
another thing. Another good thing to come out of all of this is that, like, a lot of other countries, like, I know Canada had some stuff in place for this stuff.
Mhm.
Had plans in place, which I think is one of the reasons why we fared out
Better than a lot of places.
better than a lot of places and fairly well, honestly.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of other countries that we all know of, and I'm not going to mention, decided to ignore some of those things. And some countries just didn't have any plans for this kind of a scale
Of an emergency
issue.
yeah.
Or they had plans in place.
Yeah.
And the person in charge now threw away that budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's a whole thing.
it, like, people have been talking about superbugs for years
They have.
that are going to, like, superbugs that ignore antibiotics.
Yep.
This is
This
not
is- this
quite
is-
there.
But it's that kind of thing.
It's that kind of thing that
Yeah.
now it kind of puts it into a real perspective. And it proves that we can kind of fix climate change.
Yeah.
There is still stuff to
That's
be done.
actually true. Yeah, the fact that you know nobody was driving for a few months. I mean, up north, the hole in the ozone layer completely healed itself.
Mm-hmm.
and like
which
you
is pretty
could
amazing.
see China from space over
Yeah,
through the smog.
yeah, strange stuff, right?
Like stuff like that. Like
it's really good.
Yeah.
so there are always positives to take away from anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we are remarkably fortunate in this region.
Yeah, in
actually.
this region of Canada, we did
Yeah.
Yeah.
fair, to the point where like the four easternmost provinces are open to each other. not to the rest of the country, but like you're free to travel between.
Fingers
the floors.
crossed that lasts through the fall.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
honestly, hopefully that holds up, and I think that was a smart decision because it made sense because we had kind of had everything under control in this part of the country. And I think it made it a lot better for a lot of people.
Oh, for sure.
Like, it just made people a little less, like, flaked out about everything. And
Well, that's one of been one of the biggest effects of all of this. It's not that, there's lots of people who are sick, but there's far more people who are, suffering, like mentally or emotionally from the isolation and all that kind of stuff too, right?
you don't think it's like okay,
Something
so
doesn't
we
get
gotta
talked
stay
about.
home for a couple months, and then, like, 5 weeks into it, you're like, I would commit actual murder to go walk through a bookstore right now.
Right. Totally. Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's it for us there,
Yeah.
Emily. Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes,
Thank
this has
you.
been fun.
This has been a lot of fun. Yeah.
It's too late, what you saw, no choice.